Welcome back. Today we are talking with Frank Harrison about travel risk management. Frank, great first segment there. I really appreciate it. I had a couple of questions for you. There was a mention about a travel risk assessment. How do you go about doing that? Do you do the assessment on the person, the location, the country? Can you tell us a little bit more how you perform one of these assessments and what we need to consider?
So, as a baseline for our business and the support that we provide both within World Travel Protection and to our sister companies in the Covermore Group and Zurich Travel Assist, we have a portal, a risk management portal that has country level summaries for all destinations. And that summary is going to have a political overview, it's going to have a conflict statement, terrorism, if there's known unrest, what the crime is in those areas. So you look at everybody that's heading to Paris for the Olympics right now, and one of the
Mm,
biggest issues in Paris is pickpocketing. We look at natural risk. We can debate about climate change in the world, but the hard reality is climate is shifting, and we're starting to see more and more events that would have been characterized as 500, 100-year events. We're seeing them annually. I lived in Portugal for a while where they would have a fire season once a year. In the time that I was in Portugal, the fires became continuous year round, and it was stunning because even the Portuguese were caught off guard by it. So, and then you look at health risk. I don't want to talk about the phase we've just moved out of, but while we were caught up in that phase, we weren't paying attention to the fact that there's malaria outbreaks around the world that nobody forecasted. You've got diseases such as Marburg that have emerged in West Africa in addition to Ebola. So it's understanding what's going on from a health risk standpoint. If I were to tell you how many points on the face of the earth right now have polio outbreaks, you'd be shocked that there's 9 major outbreaks of polio globally right now. So it's understanding that. And then for local travel, if we have an individual that's going to a very specific area within a country, it's finding that information within our portal or going to the analysts that are responsible for providing this information and getting a bespoke approach to a briefing. And then internal to our team, we can talk a little bit more about the team in a couple minutes, but we have an intelligence analyst within our organization. So if we have folks going into high risk or areas that have probability of arbitrary detention, we'll do bespoke briefings for individuals that are at risk, whether they're C-suite or somebody that's a holder of proprietary or intellectual information, and making sure that they understand the environment that they're going into.
So how do you get this information? Because you mentioned command center, but literally when you turn the news on every day, there's something happening new everywhere. I don't think there's a place on this planet right now that's nice and quiet and peaceful and, bunnies and rainbows. So how do you go about monitoring so much?
So in our business, we're structured around a model called Follow the Sun, and we have a command center in Brisbane where my general manager sits. He's responsible for our global security solutions team and also APAC with our intelligence analyst. We have a command center outside of London in a place called Uxbridge where my counterpart resides, and I'm here in Toronto with our command center here. Each command center has an integrated team of medical, security, logistics, and support personnel so that when somebody calls in asking for assistance, help, or information, it's a singular point of contact, and then all the resources are brought to that call. We don't call forward people anywhere around the world. They all get dealt with where they call in. So the information that we have, we use a platform called Riskline as our base for our intelligence and risk platform. And Riskline uses an AI-driven system to draw information in from open source. And then there's human analysts that sit on top and review that information before it's communicated outwards, either to the platform or to our traveling customers, the end users. Does that answer the question now, Alex?
Y- Partially. I'm just wondering, with so many events happening, how do you, I know you said follow the sun, but how do you determine what's important and what's not important? What is, a red flag versus an amber flag, type of incident? How do you go about determining that? Because there are so many things that are happening, and we've got business travelers around the world. How do you tell them watch out for this, but you don't need to watch out for that kind of thing. I'm oversimplifying it, but how do you go about determining what's really something to be nervous about or watchful for?
So within our platform, we are getting constant updates literally globally on what's going on around the world. So I can't show you right now, but on our portal that's running beside me here, I've got everything that's current that's occurring. Now, what's unique is our end users with the app downloaded on their device, they can set the parameters of what they want to receive.
Okay.
So we're sitting in our command centers watching what's happening globally, and then that traveler, they're getting notifications of what's occurring around them. Most travelers will set their limit at about a 4. So we're 1 through 5, low, 1 being lowest, 5 being extreme. Most travelers will set it at 4. So anything that's a 4 level event or higher, they're getting a notification on their device.
Okay.
Our teams are sitting in the command centers. They're watching the events as they're unfolding. And when they see a 4 or 5 event coming up, or even a 3 that has a very wide regional impact, they'll go in and they'll look on our system and see what travelers are potentially going to be impacted, knowing that those travelers with their apps on are getting alerts, but our teams will also send out a notification to the travelers to advise them or simply ask if they're safe or okay or if they need assistance.
So let's change gears a little bit. Now let's put myself in the position where uh, I can't move. Something has happened where I am. I can't leave my hotel, and I'm looking for help. What's the process to get me back home? How do you go about that? Because you mentioned team, so I'm assuming that's obviously a part of your team of what they're doing. So what's that process? What would I do, and what can I expect, and what happens for that path to get me home safely?
I'll give you a couple of examples. So if we look at what's just been occurring in New Caledonia and the Pacific Islands, where there's been an outbreak of rioting and political disruption with the Kanakers, there is a large population of expats that found themselves in Noumea stuck and trapped in hotels, and they couldn't leave because of the rioting that was occurring within the capital, and the airport was closed. The airport's quite the distance away from the capital, so the airport was shut down, so people couldn't actually get out. In that type of a situation, our command centers are establishing, okay, you're in your hotel, you're safe, stay in your hotel, daily check-ins or more if the customer requires it. We use a term called a nervous traveler, and that is something where we identify if somebody is out of their comfort zone, and we do increase check-ins with them just to give them the confidence that they're safe. So New Caledonia is a bit of an extreme because the entire country was locked down. People were stuck in hotels. But by checking in, we were making sure that they had the essentials of life. They had food, they had comfort, and then preparing that situation when the airport did open up to ensure that they had seats on aircraft and rides to the airplanes to get them out. Use another extreme when the earthquake happened in Marrakesh. Our case managers went online, saw there were 7 people impacted by the event. They were able to contact 6, and the 7th was not contactable. So there was a process then to relate back to your earlier question about how do you find someone when they don't check in. And it was getting the authorities to go to the last known or point of contact, establish that the structure that the person was in had collapsed. The person was removed from the structure unconscious, taken to a hospital, treated. And then through the UK Foreign Office, the documents were secured to get the person into an ambulance, to an evacuation jet, and to London, all while they were unconscious.
Wow. Now you had an example. It's actually on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, about with I want to say CNN, but I'm not sure if it was a CNN reporting crew where
It,
this was actually filmed. This whole getting somebody out and right.
that was actually a television series called Trafficked that airs on the National Geographic Channel. And that was the traffic crew led by Mariana von Zeller. They were in Niger doing an episode on artisanal miners and how that gold was being used to support terrorism throughout the Sahel region. Nobody expects a coup. And halfway through their shoot, coup occurs. They are now stuck in a little city called Agadez, 1,000 kilometers out in the Sahara Desert from the capital. And the junta declared a no-fly zone, closed the borders. So they were locked down in a hotel that had been built by Muammar Gaddafi, if you can see the humor in it, and basically trapped. And initially, they were covered by another assistance company. That company was unable to do anything for them, so they came to us. We acted on a private case for them, and we negotiated with the junta, got a landing permit into the no-fly zone, got a jet in, and extracted them. It took about 36 hours to build up the contingency plans, get the approvals, and get the aircraft in a very tight window, and extracted them to Dubai.
How do you go about getting those approvals? Because you just mentioned, getting all the right approvals. That's got to take some effort because there's governments, all kinds of people involved with that. So how do you go about getting that?
So this is a stumbling block for a lot of our peers in industry, is they follow very regimented policies, procedures, and scripts. And where we benefit from is we're lean, we're agile, and we're able to pick up a phone call and make the phone calls outside of the norm. So for that operation, we had 7 different contingency plans, all being run at the same time. So it was basically whichever one fell in place first, that was the one that was going to be executed.
Hmm.
But in that 36-hour period, as things drew on and the crisis on the ground got more severe, we started getting very restricted on what we could do. And when we lost the last significant piece of the contingency operation, quite literally, we had our air ops team that was sitting in Dubai, and we started making phone calls into the junta headquarters until we found the person responsible for the airspace, and just simply asked if we could bring an aircraft in to get 8 foreigners out of the country so we could get them out and safe. It was a brief conversation with the person that was in charge of the airspace, and all that person wanted to understand was, could the plane legally fly into the airspace and who was going to pay for the landing fees. When we confirmed all that, they issued the landing permit, gave us an extremely tight window to execute the operation, and we were able to get the plane on the ground 1 minute after the actual scheduled open time. And that was probably one of the most unique and time constraint operations I've been involved in, but it was very successful, very effective.
Yeah, and having seen the video on YouTube, the stress, you could see the stress kind of flow from the people that were trapped, which is why I wanted to talk to you because that intrigued me, watching that video going, wow, how does that happen? So, but
The key
that,
to that operation was continuous communications with the impacted people on the ground and also their leadership team in Los Angeles, where we kept them completely involved in what we were doing. And in most cases, we would present to them the options for the contingency planning, and they would say yes or no to it. So they were very active in what was occurring with and for them. So
Mhm.
that when we did get the authorization for the landing permit, as you saw in that video, I called the crew direct in Agadez and briefed them over the phone, all while their leadership team was sitting in Los Angeles, or listening to what was being said. And then once we had the aircraft in the air and we knew when it was going to land, it was just getting them coordinated to the airport, on the plane, and out.
And out. As well, kudos to the team for that. Watching that, I was just, wow, how did that happen? How did you make that happen in the middle of a coup? And yet still able to make it happen. It was really kind of thrilling to watch because it was like a scary situation, but wow, people can still get things done. Wow, it was amazing. So kudos to the team for that.
We have a very tight team, and we were able to get results that to this date, I don't think anybody in our peer industry groups have been able to accomplish.
Well, I know others tried, and you mentioned it, and couldn't do anything. So it was good to see that they made it home safe and got out safely. On that note, we've come to the end of our second segment. Today, we are talking with Frank Harrison about travel risk management, and we will be right back. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. but leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.